What's up, guys? Rick here with your betting preview for this week's Valspar Championship. I will take you through the outright board, the head-to-head market, maybe some props, and even one and done, mostly via data and just maybe a little bit of narrative along the way. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll get started right now. Here's the betting board. This is via Odds Checker. It's a giant grid that shows you where the best numbers are available, which is pretty good and pretty handy. A couple of golfers at the top here. The top-heavy nature of this board: Justin Thomas 11-1, Jordan Spieth 12-1, Sam Burns 16, Matt Fitzpatrick 18. They're the big four. There's a little bit of a drop-off there before we get to Keegan Bradley. Let me just say, I have historically not bet the shorties, right? And it only took me a year to figure out I'm getting wiped. And now 3 straight weeks, I've had John Rahm at Riviera. I've had Rory McIlroy, who finished second at what? Bay Hill? Was that at Bay Hill? And then Scotty Scheffler last week. It's a lot easier when you bet the favorites. It's a lot easier when you bet the guys who can actually win golf tournaments. I should consider that. With that being said, I don't know if I'd make a bet at the top this week. I actually might get to Jordan Spieth. I think there is a pretty compelling case for Jordan Spieth. So he's 12-1. I don't know if I'll get there, but I think he's definitely the guy that I like most at the top. So, well, not Travis Spieth, Jordan Spieth. So here's the compelling argument. The compelling argument is he just puts the ball in the cup. Which I know is not super compelling, but he's got all the upside in the world, obviously. T6 at Phoenix, T4 at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's gained strokes on approach in 4 straight. The short game's great. The putter trying to turn around a little bit. I think that there are some similarities to Harbor Town, which is you just Valspar and the Copperhead course just kind of asks you to play to positions a lot, which is what Harbor Town does. You don't have to drive it long. In fact, this is one of the shortest courses in terms, or one of the shortest average drive distances on the PGA Tour. And I think that there are enough parallels and enough magical upside and enough real upside in Jordan Spieth that if I was going to bet a guy at the top, it would probably be him. 12-1. Maybe. We'll see as the week goes on. My tournament predictor, which I don't show this enough, RickRunGood.com, did not like Jordan Spieth as much as kind of I do. This is a model that simulates the results of the event 1,000 times, and then it compares the odds to the prices across the industry, so you can kind of find the best values. Jordan Spieth only won this 3.6% of the time. You know, I don't let any one thing be the gospel, right, or be the end all be all. But worth noting that Jordan Spieth was not particularly liked in the tournament simulator, but he did top 20 it a ton, higher rate than a lot of these other guys. And I just feel like when he puts himself into position, there's a lot of really good things that can happen. I'll stay here on the tournament predictor for just a second and point out that 56 different golfers won the simulation at least once. That's a lot. 10 different golfers won the simulation at least 4% of the time. That's a lot. I think it makes the case that this thing is pretty wide open. The guys at the top who won it the most are in the next tier, so that's why I'll stay here for a second. But Justin Rose won it the most, 6.4% of the time, coming off of a win a couple of weeks ago at Pebble Beach. Adam Hadwin won it 6.2% of the time. Those are the 2 golfers who won it over 6% of the time. And Davis Riley, believe it or not, won it 5.8% of the time. So all 3 of those guys have pretty decent value across the board. When I go back and look at this, and I see, okay, Keegan is 25-1, Tommy Fleetwood is 25-1, Justin Rose is 25-1, Adam Hadwin is 28-1. I like these 3 here, this Fleetwood, Rose, Hadwin area. So Hadwin is somebody that I've, talked about a lot already this week. He's got the ball striking upside. He's got the putting upside. He's lost strokes putting in 3 straight, which means he's got an opportunity to bounce back to his baseline. He's won this event before. He's played well at this event after the victory. It just feels like we're trending towards a really good spot here for Adam Hadwin. I do worry, can he actually win it? But I worry that, can Tommy Fleetwood actually win this thing, right? Fleetwood doesn't have a win on American soil yet, right? Doesn't have a PGA Tour victory. He won the Ned Bank at the end of last year. He's got a well-rounded game. This is a pretty good stat profile as well, because you're really just asking him to putt well, go out and gain 4 strokes with the putter, which he's capable of doing, and he's volatile in a good spot. So him, and even I'll throw Justin Rose into the mix just so that you guys can see him here. Justin Rose has buttoned a lot of things up, and he's gained 7 strokes on approach to the Players. He won Pebble Beach 4 starts ago. He's not nearly as reliant on the putter as he used to be, and he's got a ton of history around Innisbrook. So as I'm building a betting card, I can't get all 3 of these guys, right? Unless those, I guess I could, but they would be the only 3 guys that I bet. And if I want to get Jordan Spieth, I'm definitely out on these 3 or some combination of them. It's probably just one of them. So what I think is the most likely scenario is I'll go Spieth, Hadwin as the top 2 on the card and just hope I don't get Rosie winning twice in 5 starts and I don't get Fleetwood on the one upside week in 10 years or whatever, right? Just hope I don't do that. But I think the likely start for me is Spieth, Hadwin. It gives me 2 really high upside golfers that could actually win the golf tournament. The next tier is pretty interesting as well because I do think these guys are super live. The 30 to 60 has been a void on the betting cards for the last 18 months or so, and it's been very, very chalky or 100 to 1 or something like that. And this used to be such a great range. I think there's a couple of guys worth noting. I will probably not pay the 37 to 1 on Justin Suh. I'm out on Brian Harman. The 3 that make the most sense to me are Wyndham Clark, Gary Woodland, Ben Griffin. Gary Woodland, unfortunately, to actually win in the outright market, is likely going to have a pretty outlier putting performance, right? There's guys that Tommy Fleetwood's a good example, right? Tommy Fleetwood's like a 0 putter, and he does it with +4s and -4s all the time. That's good. That's what you want, and you try to catch it all on the up week. Gary Woodland, gains 7 strokes ball striking at the Players Championship, the Players freaking Championship with the best players in the world, and finishes T54 because he gives it all back on the putting surfaces. And he is just routinely losing 4, 5, 6 strokes with the putter that he's going to have to gain like 2 strokes with the putter, which is going to be a pretty significant outlier, and combine that with these high upside ball striking weeks, which I'm not as concerned about him getting. I want to be in on Gary Woodland, but I realistically, and I feel like I think what I've gotten better at is just like detaching from some of these guys. You know what I mean? And just saying, instead of saying, wow, I think the metrics are there, let me try to find the week. Like, what is the likelihood of that actually happening? And can I just live with myself not being on Gary Woodland? And I think the answer is yes, I can live with myself not being on Gary Woodland. Ben Griffin's 50 to 1. Ben Griffin, if you look at this column here, which I think is pretty interesting, it's on the power rankings. It's the strokes gain distribution, which shows you how often guys gain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strokes or more to the field. Ben Griffin's upside is pretty savvy. Gains 5 strokes to the field 11% of the time. It's the second highest rate behind just Akshay Bhatia. Harry Higgs and Pearson Cootie are at the same rate. That's massive. Now, he's got to put 3 or 4 rounds together and win this golf tournament, but he drives it well. I think there's a couple of paths to the top of the board for him where, he can either drive it well, gain 2 strokes on approach, and then rely on the short game, because the short game's been phenomenal. He gained basically 10 strokes around the green at the Players and the API combined. He's putted well. He's capable of gaining 3 or 4 strokes there. So there's a couple pretty clear pathways to the top for Ben Griffin. Again, it's just, is Ben Griffin going to win this golf tournament? I think the answer is probably not, but I wouldn't kill you if you wanted to bet Ben Griffin. The guy where I'll go is Wyndham Clark. So the top of the card for me looks like, I haven't put these in yet, but it's likely going to look like Spieth, Hadwin, Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark. Wow. Jordan Spieth, Wyndham Clark. I tried. Jordan Wyndham Clark. Wow. We got there. There you go. That seems like the logical start. So for me, we've been tracking Wyndham Clark for a long time, and this is a great stat profile. It is one that gains consistently from tee to green, can have really strong ball striking weeks. He actually usually has strong ball striking weeks. His around the green play is much improved, and the putter is generally okay, generally a positive. He's done it in big time events in much deeper fields than this. He's played with stars and hasn't faded. He's got the weighted strokes gain metrics that you would love to see, because a lot of these A lot of these results are coming in big time event. He has actually the number one player in weighted strokes gained total over the last 36 rounds. 1.58 strokes gained per round, weighted strokes gained per round, because that is taking into account the great play at very good and deep events, right? So that is that the number one player in weighted strokes gained, arguably a very important stat. Because raw strokes gained is just how much did you beat the field by. It's very important. Weighted strokes gained, adjusting for strength of field, and being the number one guy, and being 45-1, must bet. I think it's a must bet, and I don't say that often. So my card, I'll put this in later, looks like it's going to be Spieth, it's going to be Hadwin, it's going to be Windham Clark. I'm trying to get smaller cards, and I'm doing it successfully. I'm actually on a pretty decent run right here. Trying to get smaller cards. I don't know how many more I'll fire after this. So that's the three I'm pretty heavily invested in. I might take a stab at Victor Perez, 66-1. I showed him a lot on the Monday show. I've talked a lot about him. He won on the DP World Tour a couple of starts ago. He won in Abu Dhabi. That's a pretty decent field. Let me pull up the results of that. So he beat Minwoo Lee. Minwoo Lee finished second, who now, Minwoo just obviously made a run at the Players' Championship. Padraig Harrington was up there. Francesco Molinari, Alex Noren, Terrell Hatton all finished inside the top 10. The other Molinari brother, Eduardo, Adrian Moronk, who's played well. Højgaard, Seamus Power, Guido was in this field. Pablo Larrazabal, I believe is how he pronounces it. Thorborn Olesen, Robert McIntyre. These guys were all in the field. And it was Victor Perez who came out on top. So I'd be pretty happy if I could start with those four guys. Spieth, Hadwin, Wyndham, Perez. And then I'm probably done, to be honest with you. We are into the 60s and the 70s. I like the way Taylor Moore plays. I don't necessarily think he's going to win. I love the trajectory for Garrick Higo. I do not necessarily think he is going to win. Akshay would be a phenomenal story, and he's super volatile in a good way, and he's coming off the runner-up finish in Puerto Rico and all that fun stuff. 100-1, probably not going to get there. The only other one that I would click, and this is mostly just basically a shot in the dark. It would either be Ryan Gerard, who is as short as 65 and as long as 125-1, so that's probably why you should use the grid, is Dylan Wu. So I saw him as long as 200-1 when this opened. He's now settling in at 150, 160. I just think he's mispriced by 50 or 60 points, and he should be 80-1, something like that. And I just like the way he's hitting it, and I don't have to put much on that to be rich. So I will likely have him at 200-1 if I can find it. So those five are the likely scenarios. Now, if you were paying attention, there are a lot of guys that I like in general, and I can get access to them in matchups. So the guys that aren't going to make the outright card, but I talked about, who are just missing, are here. Like Justin Rose, plus 106 to Keegan Bradley's minus 127. I like Keegan, but Justin Rose at plus 106? Yeah, let's go there. What else do we have? Even Justin Rose plus 115 to Sam Burns minus 138. I'm pretty down on Sam Burns, so I don't mind that whatsoever. How about Jordan Spieth plus 115 to Justin Thomas? Justin Thomas hasn't been that good. What about these other guys? First off, Adam Hadwin minus 120 to Brian Harman's minus 100 feels like stealing a little bit. I want Tommy Fleetwood in matchups. Oh, Tommy Fleetwood over Brian Harman is criminal. Brian Harman has been horrible. Actually, let's run this. I want to run this. This is the head-to-head matchup tool, RickRunGood.com. Let's call it last 36 rounds. You plug in any number of rounds that you want. You plug in any two golfers that you want, and it shows you the likelihood that one is going to beat the other in a 4-round matchup, and then it shows you kind of the strokes gain distribution and breakdown so you can see whether a golfer is volatile or not. Tommy Fleetwood, wow, I'm surprised it's this close. Last 36 rounds, I have Tommy Fleetwood just beating Brian Harman. I'm stunned by that. What about last 24? Can I cherry pick this to a point where Tommy Fleetwood looks good? Yeah, 24 rounds. But Brian Harman's been so bad. Let's look at Brian Harman. I hate it when my narratives do not match up with the data. Brian Harman has lost strokes on approach in 7 consecutive starts. Obviously not good. His 2023 has been horrible. His best finish was a T16. That was at the Tournament of Champions. That's only like a 39-person field. This is not good. This is not good. So stealing Fleetwood at the same price as Brian Harman, giddy up. What else do we have here? There was Ben Griffin over Taylor Moore, right? These guys that I did not end up clicking their name, but was still pretty high on. Even Nate Lashley plus 115 over Nick Taylor. Or what else do we have here? Ryan Gerard minus 100 to Pearson Coody. That's pretty good. Ryan Gerard's been awesome. Victor Perez over Alex Smalley. Okay, I showed you Victor Perez's profile, right? Winner on the DP World Tour. Playing great. You want to see Alex Smalley's? Since 2023 started, he hasn't been able to find it. He ended his fall in great form and has not been able to find it. Just horrible. Losing on approach, hemorrhaging with the putter, no good finishes. Wow. Victor Perez over Alex Smalley. Let's go. Anybody else? That's probably it. I threw out a bunch there, but yeah, those are all pretty solid. Props. Let's talk props real quick, although I don't think they're up yet. The props are not up yet on PrizePicks. Let's when they do come out, obviously strokes are going to be important, but I want to look at fairways. You can dial back off the tee here. We talked about it with Jordan Spieth. The idea that you don't have to pull driver everywhere is going to make some of these fairways a little bit easier to hit, and I don't know if PrizePicks is going to be on that. So we'll see. I've a link in the description. It's code Rick. I'll tweet some out as well because I've also been using Run Good Props, which is a website that I run to compare the odds at all the sports books, or 7 different sports books for strokes, and now PointsBet and Caesars are putting out round by round strokes more frequently, which is great. So Run Good Props is also a pretty handy tool. So I'll tweet some stuff out as we go. One and done. I think it's pretty clear. So this is the projected ownership in one and done. Sam Burns 18.5%, Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood 13%, Adam Hadwin 10%, Jordan Spieth 8%, Keegan Bradley 8%, Justin Suh, Matt Fitzpatrick, everybody else. So here's where I'm kind of at here. I'm not interested in Burns. I understand because he's twice a winner that people are going to find him popular. I'm happy to let you guys have him. And if he burns us, no pun intended, for the 3rd straight year, fine. Don't care. Rose, I think, is interesting. Fleetwood, I think, is interesting. I don't like how popular they are. Actually, for Golf Digest, I wrote up Justin Rose. So that was probably where I would have gone in a vacuum. Now that I have a little bit of an idea of ownership, any one of these 3, Rose, Fleetwood, or Hadwin that you want to go to, I think all are very, very fair. I don't need to play Spieth here. I don't need to play Justin Thomas or Matt Fitzpatrick, or, again, I don't want Sam Burns. I don't know who else you think could actually win the golf tournament. If you think it's going to be Wyndham Clark, great. But I'm living with these 3. Rose, Fleetwood, and Hadwin for the most part in my one and dones. Even if I'm front running, I don't think I'll go to Sam Burns. If I'm front running, I would go to I'd probably go to Justin Rose. And if I'm trying to make up ground, I might go to Wyndham Clark. And if I'm in the middle of the pack, I might just alternate between Rose and Fleetwood and Hadwin and see what happens. That's kind of the way that I'll end up shaking this thing out. All right, down and dirty. Quick little, not really all that quick. It was still 20 minutes. Betting preview for Valspar. And obviously, there'll be a live chat 3 p.m. Eastern time on the Rick Run Good YouTube channel where we can cover even more great stuff. But appreciate everybody tuning in. Talk to you soon.